going on? What's going on? Victor Adatiba here with another episode of MansaTek Mindset Mondays. Good morning. I hope your Monday is off to a wonderful start. Let's get to it. Today's topic that we'll be discussing, which is our theme for the week, is courage. Courage. Thinking back to my childhood when I was growing up, I wasn't always the most courageous person, but I think that in my adulthood and through just the experiences that I've had in life, um, my courage has been rising, right? My courage has been increasing, and I'm happy to say that I believe I'm at a point today where I am the most courageous that I've ever been, but it was not always an easy road. And even in this season of courage, sometimes glimpses of the old me come out. Some of you may know that a little over a year ago now, my youngest daughter, Michaela, was born with a heart defect. And at 3 months old, she had to have open heart surgery. And in my adult life, the time that my wife was pregnant with her up through her surgery, because when my wife was pregnant, we found out about the heart defects and some other potential issues she may have. And so that time period for me is a time in my adult life that I was the least courageous and the most fearful, and really wish that the world would just come to a halt so that I could deal with what was going on in my own life. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how to be more courageous, some obstacles to finding your own courage, and some risks that you face as well when you're not courageous. I'm thankful to say that, now my daughter is coming up on her second birthday. The surgery went well. Um, she's had a full recovery, and we look forward to her living a long and fulfilling life. So it's a lot easier on this side of that ordeal to be courageous, but I do empathize with people who are in a season or in a period where they are unable to find their courage and they're seeking it out. So, first, let's start by defining courage. And so, courage is the ability to do something that frightens one. So, if something frightens you and you're able to do the thing that frightens you or take action, that's courage. Another definition for courage is strength in the face of pain or grief. So, when you or your family are experiencing pain, when you're grieving, and you're still able to press on, when you're still able to show strength to others and be that strength for others, that also is courageous. Courage involves taking risks. Courage involves facing your fears. Courage involves sometimes standing up for what you believe in. It's important that we remember that um, courage is not being afraid or not being fearful of something. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is the ability to act despite that fear. And that's what's most important to remember. Being courageous has so many benefits that you'll get to reap throughout life. In seasons of courage, you are more confident. You've got greater levels of self-confidence. And so you believe that you can do just about anything when you are courageous, even when something approaches you, when an obstacle approaches you, or some bumps and bruises that you may take in life hit you, you still have the courage to continue to press on despite that. Courage helps with personal growth because, again, when you believe that you can do more, you strive to achieve more, and inevitably, you do end up achieving more. So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Courage gives you a sense of accomplishment, right? Again, you can accomplish anything that you set your mind to. When you believe that courage, people can see it, people can smell it when you walk in the room. And ultimately, being courageous will help you live a more fulfilling life. Courageous people oftentimes look back at the end of, I'll call it a mission or something that they've accomplished, and they feel good in that moment. And so just imagining having a cache of those experiences later in life and feeling like I did everything that I set out to do, or I at least attempted everything that I set out to do. I didn't cower um, in the face of fear. But despite all of those things, there are numerous obstacles that can keep people or prevent people from being courageous. Fear of failure is one of those things. And so when you are scared of failing or scared of what happens when you fail or what could happen when you fail, sometimes that courage shrinks a little inside of you. We're going to get back to that one, the fear of failure and how that can be asphyxiating. Fear of rejection, right? Wanting to achieve something or even wanting to approach somebody or ask for something, and just the fear of being told no, again, can make that courage shrink a little bit. Fear of the unknown, whether that's an unknown person that you may want to pursue a relationship with, whether that's an unknown career field that you want to pivot into, whether that's an unknown city or state that opportunity is in, but you're scared of going after it because you just don't know, or you've never been to this city or this state. All these things can hold you back and kind of make you live a smaller life than you're supposed to when you aren't walking and operating in courage. If you're looking for some ways that you can build your courage, one is you can seek new experiences. And so as you do new things or learn new things or experience new things, again, this gives you that sense of achievement, right? It makes you a little bit bolder, a little bit more courageous in that you can attempt something and achieve it. So maybe I should attempt something else, right? So each of these new experiences like traveling, like meeting new people, surrounding yourself with supportive people, right? That's also a way that you can build courage, because in the moments that self-doubt creeps in and that negative voice on your shoulder starts talking down to you, these people who you have surrounded you are going to do one of two things. They're either going to echo the same sentiments and pull you down deeper into despair, or they're going to be a helping hand. They're going to lift you up. They're going to lift you up to heights that you didn't believe that you can reach. And they're going to give you encouragement in ways that sometimes you didn't know that you needed. And so it's important that you take these small steps towards courage. Um, your courage doesn't fully rise in one day. And so it's okay to take baby steps. Um, each step, no matter how small, and each success that you achieve, no matter how small, will build momentum. And that momentum will help you to continue to build that confidence. So start small, baby steps. Don't try to conquer Rome in a day. Start with cleaning your desk, right? And then maybe cleaning the shelf, and then the room, and then move on, right? And maybe eventually you'll have the wherewithal to go out and conquer Rome. Um, if we look back at history, there are a lot of people that have been courageous and that have shown courage and that we've seen the outcome of that courage. I think we can probably all agree that the life of a courageous person almost always uh, turns out better than someone who doesn't live courageously and lives in fear for their lives. First name that comes to mind is Ruby Bridges. Ruby Bridges was the first African American child to desegregate at William Frantz Elementary School at 6 years old. Ruby's bravery helped pave the way for civil rights action in the South. Imagine being a 6-year-old little girl, black little girl, going to school in the deep South when a whole city, what seems like a whole country or the whole world, doesn't want you to go to this school just because of the color of your skin. Imagine how much courage it had to take for that 6-year-old little girl to do that. I've got a 7-year-old daughter, just turned 7 a few months ago, and I honestly can't imagine her having to go to school in the same conditions and experience the same thing that Ruby Bridges did. Courage. Think of Malcolm X, a minister, a human rights civil activist, a human civil rights activist that was assassinated for his belief, for his wanting a better situation for his people in America. It took courage to speak out against the government, to speak out against systemic racism, to speak out against white supremacy. Every day knowing that your life is on the line, and despite all of that, still doing it. Courage. Think about Harriet Tubman, an American abolitionist and social activist that after escaping slavery herself, had the courage to go back to free the people that were left behind. She went on to free numerous slaves via the Underground Railroad. I don't know many people who, after escaping the horrendous conditions of slavery, rape, torture, beating, abuse, lashes, castration. I don't know many people that would go back, putting their life and their body, their liberty, their newfound freedom at risk to help free others. Courage. Nelson Mandela, or Mandela, South African anti-apartheid revolutionary who was arrested and sentenced to life for conspiring to overthrow the government. And after serving 27 years in prison, would go on to be elected the president of that same country that locked him up, South Africa. Courage. It takes courage to stand up and fight for what you know is right, in spite of what's going on around you. David, in the Bible, this is before he was King David. He was a lowly shepherd boy. herding sheep. David was the youngest of 8 brothers that would go on to slay the giant Philistine Goliath. After that, he would go on to become the king of Israel. This is a young boy that stood and watched an entire army, fearful to fight one man. And so they called a boy to do a man's job. And despite his fear, he exhibited what? Courage. Achilles, if you're into Greek mythology, I am. I'm a big Greek mythologist. Brad Pitt played in the movie as Achilles, and there's a scene before Brad Pitt goes to fight another giant, right? Maybe the Greeks borrowed that story from the Bible, but so there's a boy that is handing Achilles his shield and his sword as Achilles is getting on his horse to ride out to beat the army. Um, and so the scene is that the two armies have met in a field, and I forget who they were fighting, but the two leaders of the armies said, "Hey, let's avoid all of the slaughter." Actually, it was one guy, the guy with the Thessalonians, said, "You know what? Let's avoid the slaughter of all these men. I'll put up my greatest fighter to fight your greatest fighter one on one, and whoever wins will declare you the victor of this war, and thousands of lives will be saved." So they both agreed, and they sent out this giant, giant guy, huge. If you watch the movie, huge guy, right? And all the soldiers look at him and are like, "Oh my gosh, this guy's huge. We can't fight him." And Achilles' general calls for Achilles to come to the front of the battle lines to fight. And he calls him a few times and he doesn't answer. The Thessalonians laugh because they say, people often are scared to fight once they see this guy. But it turns out Achilles was sleeping in late. His alarm didn't go off or whatever. So they send somebody to go wake Achilles up. They wake him up. It's this little boy. The little boy is kind of giving him a heads up of what he's about to go into. And as he's handing him his sword, the little boy says, "The Thessalonian you're fighting, he's the biggest man I've ever seen. I wouldn't want to fight him." And Achilles looks at the little boy and says, "That is why no one will remember your name." And he rides off to battle. And I won't spoil the rest of the movie for you, but that's courage. That is courage. And so I implore each of you to take at least one small courageous step this week. Commit one courageous action, something that you have been scared to do or take action on. Do it, or at least take the first step towards it. Courage is a muscle that can be strengthened with practice, but if you don't use that muscle, if you don't exercise it, it gets smaller and smaller and harder to use in the moments that you need it. Again, each step towards courage, no matter how small, will definitely help bring you closer to achieving your goals and living a more fulfilling life. Which brings me back to where I'll leave you with one of my favorite quotes: "Act as though it was impossible to fail." What would you do if it were impossible for you to fail? That is the epitome of courage. I'll leave you there. Again, Victor Adetiba with MansaTek Training Academy. Thank you for joining us on MansaTek Mindset Mondays. Please leave your comment below. Let me know what courageous action are you planning on taking this week? Go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe on the video. Appreciate your time. You have a wonderful week. Peace.